Hi, everyone. We are back after a little bit of a break. I am sitting here in New Orleans. I'm about to speak tomorrow morning at the Neff Cure conference. And we'll be speaking about what it's like to go through relapses and setbacks in chronic kidney disease. But for those who can't join us, I would love to invite you all into Welcome to the Waiting Room. That's my support group that still happens almost every Friday at noon Eastern. It's $17 a month, and you can join us anytime. And for therapists, I am moving the consultation group into a paid membership. It is going to be expanded in a lot of different ways, and I really hope that you'll join us. If you are looking to continue learning how to hone your skills in working with clients with chronic illness, this is the membership for you. It's clinical consultation, business consultation, and we have a new skills class that's going to be every first and third Wednesday of the month from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. So on top of the clinical consultation group that's every month, we're also going to have this skills group where we'll be learning all sorts of different skills related to working with chronic illness. Sometimes the skill might be somatic based, ACT based, even some CBT skills that, you might be surprised to hear me say that, but some of them are really useful, especially when adapted for chronic illness. And so if you're looking to hone those skills and you want a steady home base to do that in, one that you know is always going to be there, I always show up. I've been showing up for the last 4 years in my clinical consultation group. I'm not going anywhere. I'm really actually just getting started. I absolutely love working with not only clients with chronic illness, I still see clients and do that work every single week, but also with therapists who are either chronically ill themselves or just have a strong affinity for working with this population. Because at this point, 76% of our country has at least one chronic illness, so it means we're all working with chronic illness in some way, shape, or form. I hope you'll join us. The link is in the show notes. And today we're talking with Jeannie DeBon, who I have been a huge fan of for the last 7 years, I think. I think I found her work in 2017. I think she's phenomenal and is doing some fantastic work in the EDS community. So I hope you'll enjoy this episode.
Jeannie DeBon is a movement therapist based in London, specializing in working with people with hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and chronic pain for over 15 years. Originally trained in Pilates, over the past decade, her research and study have gone on to encompass biomechanics, anatomy, neuroscience, and pain management. She has an MSc in pain management, and Jeannie also has hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome herself and rehabbed her body and mind from chronic pain. Presents for the EDS Society and other charities, and is also an educator of teachers and therapists in the field of movement therapy with the EDS ECHO program at the EDS Society. In July 2019, Jeannie launched the Zebra Club, a comprehensive clinical platform for people with hypermobility, EDS, and chronic pain. The Zebra Club has members all over the world and is recommended by doctors globally. Jeannie is the author of 3 books. Her latest book was published in November of 2025, The Integral Movement Method for Hypermobility Management. Jeannie, I'm so excited to have you here because, I learned about your work several years ago when I just had chronic pain and thought there was no answers or any diagnoses or anything like that. I just thought, this is kind of basically the path I saw my mom take, and I'm destined to be in the same position. And so you were one of the first accounts that I really came across that was speaking to chronic pain management with such nuance and kind of a low and slow paced. I didn't even know what the word pacing meant at the time. I just knew you were doing it and that nobody else was. So I'm really thrilled to have you here today. I would love for you to kind of maybe say anything more about your work that you might want people to know before we get started.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I'm so glad you found me. Absolutely. When I started talking about this, we're going back, nearly 10 years. I went to my first EDS conference in 2017 in Las Vegas. And Lara Bloom, the CEO, invited me there specifically because nobody was talking about movement back then. There was, as you quite rightly say, no one was really talking online about it on social media. So yeah, it was a big thing, and absolutely honored to be able to sort of lead the way in that for our community, and kind of changing the narrative, as you said, very much. A go low, go slow approach. As you said, I have hypermobile EDS, I have POTS, I have MCAS, mast cell activation. So I knew that being pushed and forcing myself was causing me issues. Like I would crash for days and I would have pain flare-ups and this thing that I didn't know what it was, but I'd be dizzy and I'd be fatigued. And obviously now I know it's POTS, but all of that wasn't working for me. And so I was like, what can I do for myself to improve my health, and then of course help other people, and that's how I got started, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. I'm curious what maybe some of your mentors were, even if it was just philosophies or books, but where did you start to get permission to move slower or to do things that your body needed it to do?
Yes. So weirdly, because as you said in my bio, I'm trained originally in Pilates. So I trained back in 2007, so a long time ago. And so Pilates is very different, and the breathing and everything is very different. It's very choreographed and everything has to look perfect. And so I was like, and I started looking around, and actually a book I found was from a yoga teacher called Vanda Scaravelli, and she's no longer with us. Her book was called Awakening the Spine. And I read her book and I was like, this is so beautiful. The way she describes breath and movement. And I thought, why are we not hearing this in the Pilates world? I love this. This really resonates with me. And so I kind of started going down that route of looking for more somatic teachers and therapists and people from the past, like Mabel Todd, who published a book in 1935 on, I think it was called The Thinking Body. These really interesting people that I was like, I love all of this. I want to bring that into my work. And I think that's where I really got started. And then I got more and more interested in, neuroscience, what's going on, Back then, as I said, people were trying to take a traditional rehab model and put it on an EDS body. So you'd go to rehab, physio, physical therapy maybe, and you'd be jumped straight into the exercise, stability work, strength work, have a band, do some hand weights, And actually, people weren't going, well, hold on a minute, we need to step back. Because these are patients, these are a community that's had a pretty rough time. They've been looking for answers. They've been stressed and anxious. They've been gaslit. Those are all the outside things going on. But also because of our instability, our hypermobility, we tend to brace and hold ourselves in a certain way. And that's stressful as well. That's tiring and stressful. So I was thinking, we can't jump straight in with exercise. So how about we step back? Let's look at people's breaths. Let's try and help people release some of that tension, release the bracing patterns, and then let's build from there. And that wasn't happening. That just wasn't happening. And so I thought we've got to start with this emotional, psychological, nervous system regulation before we even consider, yes, let's get some bands, let's do some weights, whatever people want to do. But I didn't think we should be starting there. So I really changed the narrative around exercise.
Yeah. And of course, I'm sure it wasn't called nervous system regulation back then. Was there a different term you were working under?
No, you're quite right. It wasn't called. That's quite a new, trendy sort of thing. You see it everywhere now. The first two principles of my integral movement method are breath and relaxation. So I was kind of talking about, I need to get people out of what I observed with myself and with my patients was that were very highly sympathetically driven. So it's like, for a number of reasons that we just talked about. So I was kind of saying, well, I need to move out of that sympathetic driven way of operating. And can I bring people more to parasympathetic and then have that fluidity to move between the both? Because it's not that one is better than the other. We need both. We need sympathetic, otherwise we'd never get up and go out the door. But we need to be able to enjoy rest and digest. parasympathetic. So in those early days, yes, I was talking about these two states. And now, of course, yeah, nervous system regulation, as I say, you hear it all the time. But that's where I was coming from.
Yeah, I love how you just explained that too. And it just even explaining that dispels some of the myths around nervous system regulation. Something that a lot of the audience that listens to this podcast and kind of follows a lot of the accounts in the pod CDS world, something that they struggle with a lot is this kind of grappling between like trying to cure yourself or optimize or to kind of be always like the best of health. Like if I just do enough, then I can be healthy and be out of this body, really. Yeah. I'm curious if you ever grappled with that at all, or if that was a part of your journey.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. Comparing ourselves, I don't know what the phrase is, but something about comparison is like the worst thing you can do, right?
Joy, yeah.
Exactly. And especially I think for us, it's difficult because many of us, of course, maybe this condition, this symptomatic condition started later in life. Maybe we weren't always ill or chronically ill or fatigued or POTS or whatever. So maybe something happened along the way that we became symptomatic. And then you've got that grief element as well of like, well, I used to be able to do all of this. I used to work full time. I used to go to the gym 5 days a week. Why can't I do that now? And then we get all of that other stress and emotion. And then we start comparing ourselves, not just to other people, but to our previous self. And then I think we are so hard on ourselves sometimes because I've said this before. It's only recently, which sounds crazy, a couple of years ago, did I learn what self-compassion was. Someone asked me, what do you do for self-compassion? And I said, well, I have a massage occasionally. And they were like, that's not self-compassion, that's self-care. And it's like, well, what's self-compassion? It's just something that I'd never considered, that I can be kind and gentle to myself. Because, yeah, we're always looking for perfection. I need to do more and then I'll be better. I'll push through this pain and I'll be okay. I'll do a bit more work and I'll be okay. But for us, of course, it doesn't work like that. And then we get these boom and bust cycles that so many of us get stuck in.
Yeah, perfectly said. Yeah, the lack of compassion or the desire for it to be so much better than what it is, kind of way beyond what our appropriate goals might be, lead us to just doing way more than we should be doing for our bodies.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how do you incorporate now self-compassion into your life? That maybe, because I'm hearing that even before, even though maybe mentally you didn't incorporate it in that way. Learning to go slower in a fitness industry that wasn't set up for that. All of that is, to me, pretty self-compassionate. I'm curious how it's changed for you over the course of time.
Yeah, that's a really nice observation, actually. You're right. I mean, learning to, just be on my mat and just be there and breathe and feel my body and feel my breath and just think, this is okay. I don't have to be doing stuff all the time. Absolutely. That was a huge part of my recovery and my healing and actually leading me to get stronger. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I hadn't stopped and said, okay, let's just calm everything down a little bit. So yeah, I guess I was doing it. I just didn't have a name for it.
Yeah. And sometimes our thoughts take a while to catch up as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So yeah, I guess it was already in my practice. And then I saw it so much in my patients that when I, let's just lie down on the table. Can I just put my hands on you? Can we just feel, because I love feeling, I can kind of see it, but I also can feel it in the tissues. And it's like, can we just let this go and to see that lovely change? And then people often have an emotional response because it's the first time they've gone, oh, being kind and gentle to myself. I think being gentle is really, it isn't a sign of weakness, right? People think, oh, the one question I get asked a lot is, your exercises are so slow. How can they possibly be doing me any good? And honestly, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the going slow builds the sensitivity that we often lack to then recognize signals or warning signs in our body. And it gives us the time to pay attention to what we're doing so that we're not doing fast, random, uncontrolled movements. We're actually learning proprioceptive awareness. We're learning body awareness. We're learning, actually, what does that feel like when I lift my arm up? Is that okay? Oh, that feels quite nice. Whatever might be going through someone's mind. But there's a reason that we go slow. It's not, just some random thing. It's really, really important. And doing that weirdly enables people to get stronger. So
Yeah.
it's counterintuitive, but it works.
It totally does. I have my own lengthy experience with that as well. And even this last kind of, I go through periods where I'll get hurt or like migraine will start to flare up right. And so I'll be out of the gym for a while. And it's only in the last year or so where I feel like I finally, I've known that for so long, like low and slow is better. This is how you get better. But there's still this like element of getting better. And the more you shed that and the more you kind of let that go, and I find the easier it is to just be able to go slow. And then you're right, you learn more about your body and you get stronger in a way different way than you think about going to the gym, lifting weights 3 times a week or something like that.
Absolutely.
It's really hard to put into words.
Yes, it is. Everyone's got their own different goals, right? Some people never want to go to the gym and lift weights. That's fine too. Some people just want to be able to walk from their front door to their mailbox and pick up their mail without increasing their pain. We've all got our own pathways. And I think when we start putting that pressure on ourselves, I should be at the gym. I should be able to run. I should be able to do a whole Pilates, yoga, whatever class. That should goes into our tissues. And then that's putting more pressure on ourselves. We're getting more fatigued. We're getting more anxious because should is a horrible word, I think, there are no shoulds. We're just, we're doing what we can. We're hopefully doing what's right for us. And we're all different. There's no should, I don't think.
What are some of the most common goals that people have when they work with you? And then how do maybe those goals change? Like, for example, I want to be able to go to the gym 3 times a week, but then it turns out to be, something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the main reason people come to see me is because of pain. So, the pain that goes with living with EDS or HSD. So the number one reason is, can you help me with my pain? I want to be able to function. I want to be able to sit up. Things that other people who don't understand this condition might go, well, that's so easy. What do you mean you want to be able to sit up? Or I want to be able to stand. I want to be able to go for a walk. These are things that are really important to us that maybe the fitness world or someone without this condition doesn't really understand. So pain is a big motivator for people coming to see me. And then through the integral movement method, doing the regulation first, following the steps, proprioception, then stability, before we even get to exercise. The pain literally starts to change, starts to diminish. People find it much easier to manage their pain. Some people have got rid of their pain altogether. And then people, I've had people who've been in incredible pain, and so many of my clients have gone on to train to be Pilates teachers. It's incredible because they're like, wow, this is life-changing. I want to do it too. So from someone whose initial goal was, can you just help me get out of pain? They've totally changed their life and they're now training to do their own thing. Other people have regained ability to go hiking up mountains, or some people just want to be able to go on holiday, to get on an airplane. And it's really wonderful to be able to be part of that and help people realize those changes that they want to make.
Yeah. From a values placed, kind of values aligned, their goals based on what they want their life to look like, not what it should look like. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your programs, I know you have online, a whole array of online videos. What does your work look like these days? Do you still do any one-on-ones? Do you do what is all the elements of your work?
So now my day looks a little different. My clinic, which I ran for, since 2011, it was really, really busy. I was seeing a lot of EDS, HSD patients every week, maybe 20, 25 people a week. So I was super busy. That's kind of winding down a little now because my focus is very much on two other areas, which are really, really important to me. One is the Zebra Club, which is my clinical platform. So I dedicate a lot of my time to running that, creating content, managing that, looking after the members. And the other element is the education side. So it's really important for me that we continue to train physical therapists, Pilates teachers, yoga teachers, massage therapists, whoever who is doing kind of body work, who's interested in how people move and how to manage this condition. So a lot of my time now is spent on education, either training or doing advocacy work, speaking at conferences. It's kind of shifted a little bit this past sort of 6 months or so.
That makes sense. Yeah. Teaching more people to be able to do, because there's only one of you, and we do need more people learning that. Yes.
Yes. So, we're training. I train with the EDS Society. I train with Polestar Pilates here in London. And I travel around. People invite me to different places around the world. And it's a real honor. But it's so lovely that people are interested. We just got to get more people on the ground working with our community. That's what we
Absolutely.
need.
Yeah. And it's so rewarding when you yourself as a practitioner can slow down and meet them at their pace and even help them slow down to the pace that maybe is best for their body. And then watching that progression from there is really, it's so much more rewarding than like somebody just kind of, training and then meeting their goal. And there's no kind of hero's journey along the way. It's simple. And I find this work incredibly, incredibly rewarding.
Wonderful.
You've been in this space for so long. I'm curious what it's been like over the last 5 to 6 years. I think COVID and long COVID really brought a ton of research out and a greater understanding of what this community goes through. So I'm curious from your perspective, like how you've noticed that change and what you're seeing in that.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that came out of COVID, right? Was the fact that people suddenly became interested in this thing. What's this thing that people are struggling with? And of course, we all knew what people were struggling with because we've been living with it. But yes, lots of investment and research into POTS and fatigue conditions now, thanks to COVID. Things have changed a lot in that. I still think there's a long way to go. We published 2 papers. Dr. Leslie Russick, who's a professor of physical therapy in the United States, and Jane Simmons here in UCL in London. We published research on my work, but that was very much self-funded. I'm keen to do research. I'm doing more research with the University of Illinois on the Zebra Club at the moment, but it's all very much self-funded, so that hasn't really changed in that respect. And I'd love to see more research going that way. What can we do to help people on the ground today? They need help today. And that's very much where I'm coming from. But I'm happy to self-fund it because I think it's really important. But I think apart from that, I think, people are getting more interested. We have a lot of people coming through the EDS Echo programs, a lot of people interested in training. So slowly, I think, but I still think we've got a long, long way to go, unfortunately.
Yeah. Can you speak to some of those elements? Like, what are you seeing? What are some of the specifics that you see, you hope to see change over the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Gosh, well, the biggest change, which, is really difficult, I would like to see, and I know I'm not the only one, but, let's change the curriculums in universities, in medical schools, in physiotherapy schools, so that people don't just get one slide about a connective tissue disorder. Because that's, we've got to deal with the root of the problem. And that's a big part of it, because people are coming out of medical schools and they don't know what this condition is. That's still happening. And I think the medical system, I just finished my MSc last year in pain management, and my dissertation was focused obviously on EDS and HEDS and HSD. And it was looking at what are the contributing factors to pain-related disability in this community. And obviously research, did a lot of reading around this topic. And it's sadly, the medical system came out as being a huge contributor to that, because you enter the medical system looking for answers. I'm in pain. I've got this, I've got that, all these unrelated symptoms. And then you go on this massive odyssey of not getting help. And then the longer it goes on, of course, it's a cascading thing of people getting more and more desperate, more and more demotivated, more pain, in more disabling pain. So unless we change that fundamental starting point, I think it's going to be very difficult. So that's a big one. And I don't even know if that would ever happen, but that's what I would like. And that would take a long time to filter down. So we definitely need that. As I say, we need more people on the ground helping people who are aware. The people that, where do people go when they're in pain? They come to physical therapists, or they go to Pilates teachers or yoga teachers or massage therapists. These people need to know. We're the sort of first place that people come. So they need to know what to do with us. So again, these are all systemic things that are going to be very difficult. But, and I'd love obviously more research into movement type things that people can start. Again, there are no guidelines for exercise or rehab. I would love to see official, this is what you do with an EDS patient or a HEDS patient, but there's none of that. So
the same way you might have like diabetes management, you start here. This is what we want to do. Yeah.
But then, I've just launched for May clinical pathways on the Zebra Club. So we've got 7 to kick us off, autonomic regulation, pain and flare management, upper body stability, lower body stability, different things that people, and even a functional one. How do I get off the floor? How do I get out of a chair? Things like that. Because there still aren't those pathways. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to create the pathways for the Zebra.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just going to be my next question. You said your research was around pain management, and also there's so much talk lately about perception of pain, and I think it puts so much pressure on thinking about your pain the right way. And I am already leading with some of my bias here, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on pain perception and the mental side of things.
Yeah. It's really tricky, right? Because pain is a very personal experience. So you would experience pain different to me. You would have a different tolerance level to me. So it's very, very difficult. And I think, we know, sadly for us, most of the people with our condition are female. Coming back to the medical system, there was a systematic review done in 2024 saying that women in general have a worse time in the medical world compared to men. And then you put EDS on top of that, and most of us are women. And so I think when you start going to doctors and they're just like, you're in pain. Well, are you faking it? Are you attention seeking? Are you, do you need counseling? Do you want antidepressants? All of this perception of females experiencing pain, I think really has to change, because, that's just not right. So yeah, pain is obviously an EDS can come in many different forms. There's not just one type of pain. You could have visceral pain. You can have joint pain. You can have nociplastic pain. You could have migraines. You could have, there's so many different types of pain, and we can experience all of them, you know? So, and I don't think that's understood, you know, that
Yeah.
pain is so complex, in
That's
particular for us as well.
Yeah, that was really actually the entire reason I started this podcast was because, you know, a referral to a therapist when you're in a doctor's office almost always meant you're making this up, or you're just anxious and that's why you're in pain, and so you need to go see a therapist. And I wanted people to know that there are therapists who do this work that believe you and are trained to help with the management of the pain or the stress that comes around along with being dismissed, and all of that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, with my MSc that I just completed, and I say it's a new way of thinking, but it's been around a long time. It first was talked about in the 70s. But the problem we have is that people are still looking at pain in a biomedical, a biomechanical kind of way. You know, you hurt your foot, so you have pain. End of story. Or you have stomach ache. Either you've got food poisoning, or you've got appendicitis, or you've got this and that. It's not, well, what about everything else? So really, we need to be looking at the biopsychosocial model, which is, again, for a lot of people, it's like, what's that? That's new. It's been around since 1977 or something like that. But only now do we start hearing, well, actually, pain isn't just a mechanical thing. You know, maybe I have pain because I'm stressed. Maybe I have pain because I'm not happy at work. Maybe I have pain because my family doesn't understand me. Maybe there's so many reasons why things are going to contribute to someone's pain. And then people go in and say, well, I've got pain here. I've got gut pain. I get headaches. I've got knee subluxation, whatever it is. And people are going to go, no, it's just not possible that you have pain and issues in all your different body parts. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you're making it up. You're looking for attention, whatever they say, because they're not even considering the whole person. You know, what's going on psychologically for this person? What's going on emotionally? What's going on in this person's environment? You know, they're just not looking at that. And things have to change for that.
Yeah.
To move on.
Is that where your kind of 7 pathways idea came from? Is like, it is kind of looking at all the different factors. Am I on the right page there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I started looking at, okay, I want to think about how to help people with hypermobility. So the first thing I did was filming the Strengthen Your Hypermobile Core program, which was back in 2016. But yeah, I did a lot of research, and obviously I'd started seeing patients, and I didn't know I had it myself because I only found out when I was 48 that I had it. So I had all these issues, and it was like, you know, why we know that people who are hypermobile have obviously joint issues, obviously, but they're holding themselves together. There's so much more going on than just the fact that they've got lax joints. That's not the whole picture, right? So why are we like this? Why do we have breathing issues? Why? There's so many different things that were going into that. And I'm like, we have to deal with that. Now, the breath, that's the reason that was the first thing in my list, was because it's such an important thermometer. By looking at someone's breathing, you can understand how they're feeling. Are they happy? Are they stressed? Are they upset? Are they, is there tension here? Where's that tension coming from? Is it from living with this chronic illness? Is it from gaslighting? Is it from all the other things that can be impacting someone? So yeah, that was a big part of it. It's like, this isn't just, as I said at the beginning, people were looking at it, this is a physical thing. You've got hypermobility, go and do some strength training, stabilize your joints, you'll be fine. No, it's not. If only it was that simple. It's not. You've got to look at so many other things. Why does this person have tension? Why can't they let go? Why can't, it was very, very complex. And that was like, okay, these are the first 2 principles, breath and relaxation, because somebody's whole life story is impacting their pain and how they're feeling and why they're not breathing properly and why they are sympathetically overdriven. It's not just joints. It's not just your joints.
Yeah, that was what drew me so much to like I like to interview a lot of physical therapists and people working on the biomechanics side
Mm.
because as someone on the psychological side, I kind of already knew like, we talk a lot about letting go of, anxiety and learning to let go, right? But I knew, I think inherently in my body that my body couldn't let go and it had nothing to do with my mind. Like I wanted to let go, but there was things happening that I didn't have any awareness of or let alone control of because I didn't have the right, not the right biomechanics, but like biomechanics is a part of this. Like you said, there's all these different parts. It's just not the only part the way that traditional PT has been,
Yeah.
trained in.
Yeah.
So connecting all of these dots, I'm curious, if you were to give a pamphlet to a doctor of like, hey, when you have a client, a patient coming in, that says this, and this. I'm really tired all the time. I can't do the dishes for more than 10 minutes at a time. And, something else along those lines.
Yeah.
Where should they send them first, given their constraints of 7 to 15 minutes with appointments?
Gosh, that's a tricky question. So are we talking they've just gone to see like their primary care doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, well, there's so many, aren't there? I mean, in the UK, we'd be sent to a rheumatologist um, for, that. But then, there's fatigue, isn't there? Why can't you stand up and do the dishes? All of those things. And like you say, is it, is it rheumatology? Is it POTS and fatigue? Is it a psychological element? There's so many different things that it could be. But I think if somebody presented at a primary care doctor and said, look, I'm struggling to stand up, I get pain doing the dishes, I'm fatigued all the time, and maybe, a couple of other things, there's that saying, that famous saying, isn't there? If you can't connect the issues, think connective tissues, I would say, please look at the whole person, it's especially because, 90% is going to be a woman, right? Please don't dismiss them as just being some hysterical woman who, can't do her dishes, Please look at the whole person. Please listen to this person and what they're telling you, because that's the big thing, right? People come to see me, and I'm not a doctor, right? But they come and see me and they say, you are the first person who's ever listened to me, which is lovely for me to hear, but that is not right. I shouldn't be number 20 on the list of doctors, and I'm the one who's listened. What about the 20 people before me? What happened there? That's wrong. And it brings us back to that whole medical system thing. What do we need to change? Again, if you're seeing 20, 30 doctors and nobody's listening or connecting the dots, then that's something's wrong there in the system.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it leaves us all to kind of our own self-research and trying to figure out. And we fall down so many rabbit holes in that time frame. I know I did. And it sounds like maybe your rabbit holes of like Pilates kind of led you to understanding your body. Some of our rabbit holes are not so lucky. They lead us down really kind of false and dangerous treatments that are, totally, they make things worse or things like that. So it's hard because, I do know that the EDS Society has a ton of resources, which is great. There are all these like organizations now that are building libraries of resources. And my hope is that does make a change at the systemic level. But I do think that, yes, this condition requires that hour and hours of qualitative interviewing, which I totally understand that doctors don't have time for. And even I don't even blame them for that. But there has to be some way to connect these qualitative interviews that, like, for example, I'm doing, you're doing, in a way that then allows the doctor to make the right referrals.
I know. And I don't want to, well, I'm going to mention it because it's happening. But, these days with AI at people's fingertips, a doctor could say, tap it in. I've got this patient who's got, not that I'm suggesting that people use AI for diagnosis, but for a research tool. I've got this patient who's got XYZ. There's no excuse, even without AI. Like you say, go online, Google it. I've got a patient who's got XYZ. You're going to get some answers.
Yep.
It's very quick. There's no excuse these days. It's not like we're in the 1980s where we just didn't have right at our fingertips resources, because we do.
Yeah. And I exactly, as I was even asking the question, AI popped into my mind too. I'm like, actually, there really is a way now to pop in and I agree. There's a lot wrong with AI, and it's being used in some really horrendous ways.
Of course.
And
but it also
so,
has a lot of benefits,
yeah,
Yes. Same with everything, right? There are good things and there are bad things. And again, I'm not suggesting we start using AI to do all our medical diagnosis, things like that. But it's a powerful tool that used correctly can help, especially if a doctor hasn't got a clue. I have no idea what this patient is talking about.
Yep.
I
know it always baffles me. I think when you're in the field for so long, you're like, you hear all these stories, and it baffles me sometimes when clients still show up saying like, yeah, my doctor kind of had no idea about this or that. And like, what, what are you learning about? I mean, I trust, I trust, I go to the doctor. I believe in our medical system in a lot of ways. And also there's still so much that's left to be desired.
Yeah. But, as I say, there's a lot going on, education, there's resources. We've got to hope that things change, right? That they are changing. Because there's a lot of people out there trying to educate and doing the very best. So we're small steps. It's going to be small steps, but I know I doubt any of us will give up in our advocacy work in trying to get this knowledge out there. And that's got to be a thing, right? That we've all got a common cause, and it makes us very powerful as a community, which is lovely.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Is there anything else about your work or about kind of what we've seen in the medical progress around everything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to touch on?
Well, I think we've covered my work quite a bit, and how I'm really pleased that the integral movement method is now evidence-based, and we know that it works, and it's a trusted pathway to help. So I'm really proud and honored to be able to do that, because it's really my life's work. So that's great. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. And as I say, I just think with everyone continuing to work hard, and things have got to get better. Things have got to improve for our patients. But that's my hope. And I do always like to say, if patients are listening to this, and I know how hard it can be, and we can get really sort of, what do I do now? It can get really hard trying to get answers. Or they've tried, obviously my focus is movement and movement therapy. I've tried exercise and it doesn't work, and it's made me worse, and I don't know what to do. I always say, please don't give up. It's just that you haven't found the right thing that works for your body yet. If you've been trying to fit your body into a traditional fitness or rehab model, yes, that might be making pain worse, flare-ups worse, etc. The no pain, no gain, and all of that, push on through the pain. But I always say there's always hope. It doesn't matter where you are today. I have people who are bedbound, housebound. We're still able to do something. There's always something. To someone else, it might seem, well, that's so small, and they're not small. These little small incremental steps are really, really important. And it brings us back to the whole psychology discussion. If I'm housebound and I haven't been able to go out and exercise or join a gym or whatever, being able to do it even a little 2 minutes at home on my own, psychologically is going to make me feel so much better. More hopeful, because that's the one thing people really struggle with, right? People start to lose hope. And I think when we start to lose hope, that's one thing I want to sort of help with, that we don't lose hope. Because no matter what it looks like, it's not about being perfect. Doesn't have to look wonderful. Really doesn't matter. But all of that will count.
Yes. Yeah. Just any incremental progress. And, again, even that word, I think sometimes can be triggering for people who maybe have a lot of perfectionist tendencies.
Oh, yes.
And so whatever your progress, your visualization of progress is, you probably cut it by a quarter and you're still doing great.
Yeah, that perfectionism, that brings, we talked about the self-compassion earlier, didn't we? And I was at an EDS conference once, I can't remember where it was, Baltimore, maybe 2018. And so I was speaking in a room of maybe 100 people. And just informally, I said, hands up who thinks that they might be a perfectionist. Literally the whole room put their hand up.
Yes.
We do tend towards that perfectionism, and that's hard. Then that goes against your self-compassion, because if you're trying to be a perfectionist, there's no self-compassion, right? And I think I definitely was. I'm trying not to be, but I was such a perfectionist that the self-compassion was like, don't have, as I said, I didn't even know what it was, but I didn't have time for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, perfectionism is a real, difficult.
Yeah.
We've got to ditch perfectionism.
Totally agree. I could not agree more. That's a great place for us to leave on. So people can find you at thezebra.club. Yes. And so you have programs there. People can join that. And it's all low and slow in an effort to just help you feel a little bit better in your body and hopeful. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, even though it's a movement course. It probably is. Yeah. Hope, I think, is the biggest reward on the other side of even probably the first time watching something.
Absolutely. And, within the Zebra Club, we have a huge community. And I think it's important that people don't feel they're alone managing this condition, and reaching out and saying, hey, this happened today, and having, a load of people say, I get that. That's happened to me. I understand. That in itself is hugely healing as well. So I think community power is a huge part of managing this condition as well. We can't do it on our own. We do need people around us, however that looks for you.
Yep, I totally agree. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared today, and for all of the resources you've created. I am just so glad that people are doing this work, because like you said, we have to. Other people, no one else is going to do it. We're the only ones who are going to take it on. And so thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me. It's been really lovely talking to you. So thank you so much.
You as well. Thanks for listening. If you learned something new today, consider writing it down in your phone notes or journal and make that new neural pathway light up. Better yet, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram, email me, or leave a voice memo for us to play on the next show. The way you summarize your takeaways can be the perfect little soundbite that someone else might need. And lastly, leaving a review really helps others find this podcast, so please do if you found this episode helpful. And P.S., clicking subscribe ensures you'll be here for the next episode. See you then.